When my wife forced me to choose between the children and divorce, I didn't hesitate to agree to everything. Only because, in my previous life, my wife had personally taken away our child to pressure me into donating bone marrow to her cousin. Afterward, to comfort her depressed cousin, she even conceived a child with him through artificial insemination, but never allowed me to touch her again. In this life, the cousin is depressed exactly as predicted. But this time, I need neither women nor children. Tony, you ranked first in the city for the university entrance exam. Since both your family and your wife are busy with work, just fill in Leonardo University as your college choice. The teacher's casual, smiling remark made me immediately stand up. Sir, I want to apply to the National Defense University to pursue scientific research and contribute to the country. In this life, I will no longer cling to the family affection and love that I couldn't reclaim. I will go far away, never to return to the capital again. The teacher was still surprised. Your score is fine for national defense, but studying there is very tough. You might not be able to handle it. You should go home and discuss it thoroughly with your family. I didn't explain further. I left the classroom and immediately went to the registration office next door, using the fastest speed possible, filling in all my choices for the National Defense Science University. After finishing the registration, I returned to the broadcasting station where I worked, sitting by the window, occasionally seeing workers pass by on two-wheeled vehicles. On the table were manuscripts and university exam study books. Looking at these familiar yet antiquated images, I felt as though I were dreaming. 2 months ago, I was reborn. The first thing I did after rebirth was secretly take the university entrance exam without anyone knowing. I wanted to leave this place, to no longer be the object of hatred for the entire family. Gazing over the low wall at the distant sky, my eyes gradually became resolute. In my previous life, I clung to rotten family affection and love, but ended up spending my entire life in solitude. In this life, I will live my own brilliant life. Before the end of my shift, I sought out the station chief, selling my job at a low price to his niece, holding the $300 hot. I followed the crowd leaving the broadcasting station. Just outside the station, I saw from a distance under a tree a figure wearing a green military uniform. Alice, in her medical military uniform. Her features were striking, both beautiful and carrying a disciplined air. Her eyebrows were gentle, but her eyes had the style of a female soldier. Even just standing there, doing nothing, she made people feel secure and trustworthy. It's true that Commander Alice is really good to her husband. She picks him up and drops him off every day regardless of the weather. It truly makes others jealous. And she's even afraid her husband might get wet, carrying an umbrella with her, not letting her husband endure any hardship. I've never seen such a good woman. Amidst the teasing, I was no longer embarrassed as before. Only the pain in my heart was uncontrollable. When I saw Alice before me, I realized that after a lifetime of injustice, I had truly been reborn 40 years in the past. Suppressing the uncomfortable feeling, I walked up to Alice. Let's go home. Alice naturally took my arm, leaning to one side, her voice gentle. You don't look very well, are you tired? Looking at her gentle, beautiful face, I fell silent for a moment. Yes, I'm tired. Let's rest a bit in the car. My father said he's organizing a birthday party for Jackson tonight. Jackson likes my cooking and wants me to prepare 8 dishes and 1 soup. My heart sank. Jackson is my cousin, and also the person who, when I was following my parents back to our hometown, I fell into the water and was rescued by Jackson's mother. My parents were grateful, so they brought Jackson home to care for him. But I didn't expect that when Jackson appeared, my world changed. I don't know when it started, but whenever I met Jackson, even if I was being stubborn, I had to yield. Yielding clothes, yielding my room, yielding my parents, even the university spot I worked hard to earn. I yielded to Jackson. And even Alice, my wife, too. Earlier, my comrades and I were chatting casually. I said that the biggest regret of my entire life was not being able to marry Alice. Next to me, my comrades were watching intently. I took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. Alice, the broadcasting station has a final report due tomorrow. I'll be interrogated tonight. I'm afraid there won't be time to prepare dinner. I subtly suggested. How about eating at the Luna Hotel? But Alice shook her head in refusal. Mom and Dad know you're busy with work. But Jackson's birthday only happens once a year. Mom and Dad will help with the ingredients. You just need to cook, and I'll go home and write the manuscript for you. I no longer had a chance to refuse. It was the same in the previous life. As long as it was Jackson's request. The whole family never failed to try their best. Even when Jackson wanted Alice to bear his child. It eventually happened. The artificial insemination car drove straight home. Tired, I walked into the kitchen. But saw all the ingredients scattered across the floor. No one had prepared anything. I picked them up, intending to wash the vegetables. When I suddenly realized the washed apron was hanging outside and hadn't been brought in. I quickly washed my hands and stepped out. But unexpectedly, as I passed the room door, I saw the door slightly ajar. Jackson, wearing the shirt I wore on my wedding day, was holding Alice in his arms. He hugged her tightly, his slightly red eyes full of longing. Alice, I dreamed again of my mother urging me to get married. My depression seems to be relapsing. I only want to marry you. The moment I think of marrying someone else, I can't control myself. I want to self-harm. Medication is useless. Alice, am I that bad? Do you hate me? Hearing this, my heart ached. Having lived through an entire life, I almost knew Alice's answer completely. My instinct was to turn away. But her gentle and soft response still arrived right on cue. I like you too. 4 soft words that fell like heavy blows onto my heart. I truly never understood. It was clearly an arranged marriage. But Alice fell for me from the first meeting. She promised to be faithful to me for life. We also had our sweet months. She was the ideal wife in everyone's eyes. Loving me like her life. Once, when I was on a mission, Alice was severely wounded, near death. The hospital gave up. At that time, I stood by her bed, keeping watch for 3 days and 3 nights, telling her while she was in a coma, Alice, if you die, I will immediately marry someone else. She woke up, gripping my hand tightly. Husband, I was wrong. I promised to stay with you for life. To be good to you. Please don't leave me. Everyone said that Alice loved her husband so much she could fight Satan for his life. But how did everything change when she met Jackson? What is the difference between him and me? I don't understand. I truly don't understand. Now that I am reborn, I will never make the same mistake again. I gave a self-deprecating smile, didn't retrieve the apron, and went downstairs. My resolve growing firmer in my heart. Waiting for the university acceptance notice. I will leave. In the previous life, Alice loved but could not be with him. In this life, I will set her free. Busy alone in the kitchen for 3 hours, I finally finished cooking the meal. When I brought it out, my father and mother were already home. On the table was a beautiful pink cake. And they were gathered around Jackson, cutting watermelon. Jackson deliberately took a bite of Alice's watermelon, smiling innocently. I tried it for you, it's very sweet. I restrained myself from speaking, pushed the door open, and walked in. Jackson saw me, immediately changed his expression, dropped the watermelon, clung to Alice, and cried, Tony, can you divorce Alice? The room fell silent. My father and mother continued their own tasks. No one scolded Jackson. No one broke the happiness of others. Only Alice looked at me, her eyes sad but resolute. I looked at her, full of disappointment. Do you also agree to the divorce? Fine, let's go do the divorce procedure right now. Saying that, I turned my back and walked away. Only then did Alice panic, chasing after me, pulling my arm back. Don't be angry, I don't agree to the divorce. It's just that Jackson's depression is severe, and we can't provoke him. I was planning to explain to you tonight. I calmly withdrew my hand, no longer needing an explanation. I am serious about the divorce. In the previous life, Jackson also wanted Alice to divorce me. But I refused. At that time, I thought I had given up too much. I couldn't lose the last person I had. As a result, even though Jackson didn't get his way, he still ruined my relationship with Alice. Our life as a couple was no different from living as a widow or being divorced. Tony, don't say bitter things. Alice rushed, her voice urgent. I wasn't saying bitter things. I looked straight into her eyes, seeing clear worry. For a moment, I didn't know whether to feel pity or amusement. Word by word, I poured out the injustice suppressed over 2 lifetimes. Half a year ago, Jackson got leukemia. I donated blood and bone marrow to save him. The recovery was long. You said the house didn't have conditions as good as the clinic, and wanted me to recover at the clinic. But you didn't visit me for 3 days and 2 nights. Until I recovered, the doctor discharged me 2 hours early. Can you guess what I saw when I got home, Alice? Alice suddenly went pale, reaching out to embrace me tightly. Listen to my explanation. She said that morning, Jackson's depression had worsened, and he secretly cut his wrist. So she only comforted him, holding him for a while, and didn't do anything else. Yes, you did nothing at all. I suddenly cut her off, pushing her away with one hand. My heart felt shattered by the 2 lifetimes of suppressed pain. But you told me you were busy with work. Yet you cooked and washed clothes for Jackson. And even when he took advantage of a fall to kiss your neck, you didn't push him away at all. I originally didn't want to expose everything, but they were too unreasonable. Alice saw my tension, reached out to hold my hand, gently saying, Tony, calm down. We are husband and wife who swore vows under the supervision of the organization. We must live together for life. My feeling for Jackson is only sisterly affection. The person I love is you. Before she could finish, I pulled my hand away. My eyes red, my voice hoarse. Then can you cut off contact with Jackson today? Before Alice could answer, a terrifying boom sound came from the room door. I turned to look, seeing Jackson, looking deranged, ramming his head into the wall. Tony, if you take Alice away from me, I will kill myself for you to see. He repeatedly banged his head against the wall twice, blood flowing out, his head aching fiercely. Jackson, are you feeling unwell anywhere? Auntie will take you to the clinic, okay? Jackson, don't rush, Uncle will help you with everything. My father and mother finally stopped pretending. They frantically embraced Jackson. I stood there, my heart numb. Alice also hesitated, releasing my hand, her eyes evasive. Tony, trust me. I only love you. She quickly ran towards Jackson. I watched her hasty retreating figure. It's been 2 lifetimes. How many times have I been left behind? No matter how hard I tried. In the end, I was only left alone. Therefore, with such a family and wife, I don't want it anymore. Turning around to leave, Jackson lunged out, punching me straight down. I dodged, punching him back twice in the face. My father hit me and yelled, What are you trying to do? Do you absolutely have to drive Jackson to his death? Mother helped Jackson up, both comforting him and scolding me. Get out now, I no longer consider you my son. In the past, every time this happened, I would immediately humble myself and admit fault, because I desperately craved family affection. But now, I had hit Jackson, suppressing a smirk of satisfaction, calmly looking at the 4 people in front of me, turning my back and walking away. From behind, Alice's voice of disapproval rang out. Tony, you're not a child anymore. What's wrong with helping mom and dad? Quickly apologize, and the whole family can celebrate Jackson's birthday together. Don't stop him from leaving. I stopped, the pain crushing me, making me choke. Over the years, my parents always used the reason that the family shouldn't be divided, forcing Alice and me to hand over all our salaries, calculating every penny for rice and meat, assigning me to cook for the whole family. When I wanted to buy something new, just 5 cents. Mother said that since I was married, there was no need for extravagance. Using old things was fine. I didn't want others to say, the family raised an ungrateful child. Meanwhile, Jackson bought hundreds of dollars worth of jackets, sneakers, and watches. And my mother laughed. My boy must have the best. And now, everyone forgot that today was my birthday. But it doesn't matter. They don't love me, I will love myself. I hid the $300 I earned from selling my job. Went to the store to buy a cake. Ate a few bites, it was sickly sweet. But my heart was bitter. It turns out, having the same things as Jackson doesn't bring happiness. Perhaps the things he stole, I should have long stopped hoping for. The taste of blood rose, and I continuously vomited. I had no choice but to go to the clinic for a checkup. An hour later, the doctor said I only had a mild concussion. My father's punch made me tired. Holding the results, I stepped out, only to unexpectedly run into Alice. She was holding a document, the red lettering standing out. Divorce report. Our eyes met. She quickly tucked the document into her pocket. Then smiled, taking my hand as if nothing had happened. I heard Jackson had a breakdown and was hospitalized. Did you come for a special visit? I knew she had understood. Dad hit you because he was angry that you ruined Jackson's birthday. Go to his hospital room, apologize to them, and things will be as before, a harmonious family. I didn't understand where I was wrong. Because didn't I give up my wife? Alice didn't reason, she pulled me out of the hospital room. Just as we stopped, Jackson's voice rang out from inside the room. Mom, will our artificial insemination experiment result in a boy or a girl? I stepped forward, bumping into Alice, feeling like I was pierced by a needle, standing ramrod straight, my eyes red, looking at her. Did you bring me here just to inform me that you plan to have a child with Jackson? Before Alice could say anything, Jackson quickly ran out, pleading. Tony, don't blame Alice. It's me who likes children and wants a cute baby. We are also carrying out the eugenics policy. I don't intend to get married or take a wife. I just want a child to accompany me for the rest of my life. You can understand, can't you, Tony? I just coldly stared at Alice, my voice coming out hoarse. So you agreed? Stared straight at by my empty gaze. Alice burst into tears, flustered, saying, Tony, don't get agitated. This is just artificial insemination, it's completely scientific. Jackson and I have absolutely no relationship. We are still pure. I couldn't stand it anymore. I finally tore off the last layer of pretense, letting out a bitter laugh. Having a child and still calling yourselves pure? Do you people have any shame left? I trembled, looking at her. A rush of bitter pain filling my heart. In the previous life, Alice also used the excuse of a mission, then disappeared for several months without coming home. By the time I found out, she was already pregnant with Jackson's child. That baby was fair-skinned and chubby, cherished and doted upon by everyone from the moment he was born. No one could imagine how desperate my heart was when I saw that child call Alice, Mom. They, a happy family of 3, were cozy and content. And me, clearly Alice's husband, was not allowed to touch her. Childless, I lived quietly alone until death. Even when I was dying, Alice was still happily with the child, preparing Jackson's birthday party. Thinking of that, my resolve to leave grew even stronger. This time, I would not bow down. I straightened my back, my voice firm. What if I say I don't agree? Alice, you are my wife, a military medic. After marriage, you are still involved with your husband's younger cousin. Aren't you afraid of being charged with indecent conduct and being demoted? As soon as the words were spoken, everyone's faces changed color. Slap. Father rushed over, delivering a fierce slap to me. Tony, are you insane? How dare you threaten Alice's reputation? Are you trying to tear this family apart? I tilted my head. The old swelling hadn't subsided yet. And now another large lump appeared. I slowly brought my hand up to cover my stinging cheek. The feeling of pain gradually turning into coldness. The one who destroyed the peace of this family, I said softly, was never me. The air in the room died down. Immediately after, Jackson rolled his eyes, then suddenly fainted. Jackson. Everyone panicked. Father, mother, and Alice quickly called the doctor. It was like that again. Every time it came to a confrontation, Jackson always, conveniently, fainted. And the result would be me being scolded, forced to apologize, whether I was at fault or not. Looking at their busy retreating figures, I only gave a cold laugh, turned, and left the hospital. I didn't go back home, but went to the broadcasting station's dormitory. Before the university entrance exam, I had secretly prepared all the necessary documents. When selling my job position, I had promised the station chief I would leave once I got the acceptance letter. During this time, I could stay at the dormitory and work, teaching the station chief's niece to get used to the work at the station. For 3 days straight, no one came looking for me. Perhaps they were busy taking care of Jackson at the hospital, not bothering to notice that I hadn't come home. For the first time in my life, I felt such peace in my heart. No need to watch anyone's expression. No need to try to please anyone. That afternoon, I returned the borrowed study materials to the station chief. He smiled, handing me a large bag of apples. You've worked hard these past few days, thank you for teaching my niece. When you get your acceptance letter, I'll personally see you off at the station. I gave a slight smile, intending to refuse, when a voice full of panic rang out behind me. University entrance exam? Tony, when did you take the university entrance exam? I maintained my expression, calmly walking toward Alice. While walking, I smoothly lied. Not me, the station chief's son. Hearing that, she sighed in relief. Not probing further, only saying, Tony, you haven't been home these past few days. Dad told me to come and take you home. It wasn't a request, but an order. I didn't want to go home, because I knew too well. If Father called me back, it was definitely to command me to do something. But thinking about it, there were only a few days left until the acceptance letter arrived. I just needed to endure a little longer to escape this place. So I remained silent, following her home. As soon as I arrived, Father was also off work. Alice hesitated for a moment and then said, Tony, make some good food and bring it to the hospital. I didn't reply. She gently coaxed again. Mom and Dad's scolding a few days ago was just momentary anger. Don't take it to heart. Father interrupted, handing me a wad of cash. I believe you've realized your mistake. Take the money to buy groceries. Make a good meal for Jackson. He's used to your cooking. He's clearly lost weight these past few days in the hospital. Every sentence, every word, pierced my ears like needles. In the previous life, perhaps I would have done as they said for Alice's sake. But now, I didn't want to say anything anymore. I just silently took the money, turned, and left. As long as I no longer held expectations, they couldn't hurt me anymore. I bought groceries, cooked the meal, ate my portion, and then brought the rest to the hospital. From afar, I could already hear laughter coming from the hospital room. But when I stepped in, the atmosphere immediately froze. Mother frowned as she took the lunchbox, scolding. Why did it take so long? Alice planned to leave for her assignment after Jackson finished eating. And because of you, she had to postpone it. Without giving me a chance to speak, she continued, her voice cold as ice. Jackson is recovering, so that job won't take him back. That job at the broadcasting station. You yielded to Jackson. You can rest for a while. My gaze slightly lowered, a bitter smile flashing across my face. This family, telling me to yield something to Jackson, had become a habit. Before, they forced me to donate bone marrow to him. Now they want to steal my job too. I just coldly stared at Alice, my voice coming out hoarse. So you have agreed? Stared straight at by my empty gaze. Alice burst into tears, flustered, saying, Tony, don't get agitated. This is just artificial insemination, it's completely scientific. Jackson and I have absolutely no relationship. We are still pure. I couldn't stand it anymore. I finally tore off the last layer of pretense, letting out a bitter laugh. Having a child and still calling yourselves pure? Do you people have any shame left? I trembled, looking at her, a rush of bitter pain filling my heart. In the previous life, Alice also used the excuse of a mission, then disappeared for several months without coming home. By the time I found out, she was already pregnant with Jackson's child. That baby was fair-skinned and chubby, cherished and doted upon by everyone from the moment he was born. No one could ever imagine how desperate my heart was when I saw that child call Alice, Mom. They, a family of 3, were cozy and content. And I, clearly Alice's husband, was not allowed to touch her. Childless, I lived quietly alone until death. Right up until I was dying, Alice was still happily with the child, preparing Jackson's birthday party. Thinking of that, my determination to leave grew even stronger. This time, I would not bow down. I straightened my back, my voice firm. What if I say I don't agree? Alice, you are my wife, a military medic. After marriage, you are still involved with your husband's younger cousin. Aren't you afraid of being charged with indecent conduct? And being demoted? As soon as the words were spoken, everyone's faces changed color. Slap. Father rushed over, delivering a fierce slap to me. Tony, are you insane? How dare you use Alice's reputation to threaten her? Are you trying to tear this family apart? I tilted my head, The old swelling hadn't subsided yet. And now another large lump appeared. I slowly brought my hand up to cover my stinging cheek. The feeling of pain gradually turning into coldness. The one who destroyed the peace of this family, I said softly, was never me. The air in the room fell silent. Immediately after, Jackson rolled his eyes. Then suddenly fainted. Jackson. Everyone panicked. Father, mother, and Alice quickly called the doctor. It was like that again. Every time it came to a confrontation, Jackson always, conveniently, fainted. And the result would be me being scolded, forced to apologize, whether I was at fault or not. Looking at their busy retreating figures, I only gave a cold laugh, turned, and left the hospital. I didn't go back home, but went to the broadcasting station's dormitory. Before the university entrance exam, I had secretly prepared all the necessary documents. When selling my job position, I had promised the station chief I would leave once I got the acceptance letter. During this time, I could stay at the dormitory and work, teaching the station chief's niece to get used to the work at the station. For 3 days straight, no one came looking for me. Perhaps they were busy taking care of Jackson at the hospital, not bothering to notice that I hadn't come home. For the first time in my life, I felt such peace in my heart. No need to watch anyone's expression. No need to try to please anyone. That afternoon, I returned the borrowed study materials to the station chief. He smiled, handing me a large bag of apples. You've worked hard these past few days, thank you for teaching my niece. When you get your acceptance letter, I'll personally see you off at the station. I gave a slight smile, intending to refuse, when a voice full of panic rang out behind me. University entrance exam? Tony, when did you take the university entrance exam? I maintained my expression, calmly walking toward Alice. While walking, I smoothly lied. Not me, the station chief's son. Hearing that, she sighed in relief, not probing further, only saying, Tony, you haven't been home these past few days. Dad told me to come and take you home. It wasn't a request, but an order. I didn't want to go home, because I knew too well, if Father called me back, it was definitely to command me to do something. But thinking about it, there were only a few days left until the acceptance letter arrived. I just needed to endure a little longer to escape this place. So I remained silent, following her home. As soon as I arrived, Father was also off work. Alice hesitated for a moment and then said, Tony, make some good food and bring it to the hospital. I didn't reply. She gently coaxed again. Mom and Dad's scolding a few days ago was just momentary anger. Don't take it to heart. Father interrupted, handing me a wad of cash. I believe you've realized your mistake. Take the money to buy groceries. Make a good meal for Jackson. He's used to your cooking. He's clearly lost weight these past few days in the hospital. Every sentence, every word, pierced my ears like needles. In the previous life, perhaps I would have done as they said for Alice's sake. But now, I didn't want to say anything anymore. I just silently took the money, turned, and left. As long as I no longer held expectations, they couldn't hurt me anymore. I bought groceries, cooked the meal, ate my portion, and then brought the rest to the hospital. From afar, I could already hear laughter coming from the hospital room. But when I stepped in, the atmosphere immediately froze. Mother frowned as she took the lunchbox, scolding. Why did it take so long? Alice planned to leave for her assignment after Jackson finished eating. And because of you, she had to postpone it. Without giving me a chance to speak, she continued, her voice cold as ice. Jackson is recovering, so that job won't take him back. That job at the broadcasting station. You yielded to Jackson. You can rest for a while. My gaze slightly lowered, a bitter smile flashing across my face. This family, telling me to yield something to Jackson, had become a habit. Before, they forced me to donate bone marrow to him. Now they want to steal my job too. I remained silent, taking a deep breath to calm myself. For me, this childhood has followed me for 2 lifetimes. Dozens of years of light and shadow. Tony. Hearing Alice's gentle, feminine voice, I was dragged back to reality. Her warm, soft body pressed close to me, so quickly that I didn't have time to react. I stiffened, intending to push her away, but then heard her whisper, Tony, I'm sorry for letting you suffer these days. That sentence made an irrepressible feeling of injustice rise within me. Even though in the previous life I had become emotionally numb and couldn't cry over Alice, at this moment, just one word of sorry was enough to make all the grievances pour out of me. I felt the force of her tight embrace, as if she wanted to merge into one with me. This posture I hadn't seen for a long time. Only once, when she was on a mission and nearly died, did she hold me this tightly after recovering, out of fear of losing me. I closed my eyes, trying to suppress my emotions. If she was so afraid of losing me, then for Jackson, why did she let me suffer injustice for 2 lifetimes? People who do wrong must pay the price. But I held back, not pushing Alice away. The next day, Alice followed me to the broadcasting station. As we passed the military zone, I stopped. "Tony, what do you want to do?" she asked, sounding suspicious. I looked at her. "I have a document I want to submit to the military zone leadership." Alice suddenly became tense. "What document? Can I see it?" I was about to answer when I saw a car stop at the gate. Father, Mother, and Jackson returned. Seeing Alice, Jackson immediately urged, "You promised to go with me to Mother's memorial service, let's go." Alice made way, hastily instructing me, "When I return, I'll go with you to work." They got into the car and left quickly. I watched the car disappear, then looked down at the divorce application in my hand. "Alice, we have no future together anymore." I quickly submitted the divorce application. When I returned to the broadcasting station, I happened to be informed. The acceptance letter from the National Defense University had arrived. I immediately requested permission to go to the headquarters to transfer my household registration to the school. Afterward, I bought a train ticket for 8 a.m. 3 days later. In 3 more days, I would completely sever ties with my family, and with Alice. After finishing everything, I felt relieved. Even when I returned to the suffocating house, I still managed a smile. But as I stepped inside, the smile vanished. The family was home. Jackson stood close to Alice, their heads leaning against each other, laughing and talking intimately. Seeing me, Alice straightened up. "Tony, why did you come back alone?" I smiled, calmly saying, "My shift ended at 5 p.m., and it's almost 8 p.m. now." Alice quickly apologized. "I'll come earlier next time." I gave a shallow laugh. She was only concerned with spending time with Jackson now. How could she still come to pick me up? But Alice seemed genuinely apologetic, leading me upstairs to rest, promising to cook for me herself. I didn't stop her, enjoying the peaceful moment in the room. A little later, the room door opened. Father stood in the doorway, a cigarette clamped between his fingers, the smoke blurring the air. His voice was commanding. "You see, Jackson only recovers when Alice is around. Otherwise, just divorce her voluntarily, and let Alice go to Jackson." The smoke made my eyes water. I sneered. "Dad, do you remember when I was little? I would cry if I smelled smoke?" Father flushed, clearly in the wrong, but still spoke loudly. "Are you blaming me? I'm telling you, if you still acknowledge us as family." I cut him off, my voice cold. Then obediently sleep separately from Alice. Don't let Jackson get agitated. Hearing such biased words, just like in the previous life, I felt disgusted. I didn't want to obstruct their happiness, and said softly, "Go tell Jackson that his wish will soon be granted. Everything he wants, I will leave behind after I go." Father saw me yielding and lowered his voice. "Good, that's better. Once you and Alice are divorced, I will find you a better wife, and the whole family will live in harmony." He turned to leave. I sneered inwardly. Harmonious family? How can he even say that? Finally, I just suppressed my anger and smiled. "Okay, I'll listen to you, Dad." I squeezed the train ticket in my pocket, feeling immensely grateful that being reborn helped me take the university exam and open my own path. For the next 2 days, Jackson remained in the hospital recovering, only coming home in the morning to rest. Father, Mother, and Alice clustered around Jackson, taking him mountain climbing, boating, and even taking family photos. I was completely ignored. Another night passed, and finally, it was the day I would leave. At 6 a.m., I woke up very early, eagerly cooking myself a bowl of noodles. But before the 2 eggs could even leave the stove, the sound of voices at the door rang out. Jackson had his arm around Alice's shoulder, so intimate that it was like claiming ownership. and his confident tone made me slightly uneasy. This morning, the hospital has already opened its pre-pregnancy checkup service, Jackson said. I hesitated slightly, thinking of the pre-pregnancy checkup, of the IVF procedure. I took a deep breath and opened the living room door. Seeing me, Alice and Jackson immediately fell silent. Alice stepped forward, calmly holding the bowl of noodles out to me. Tony, you said before that at the end of the month you would let Jackson take over your job. I will take Jackson to the broadcasting station this afternoon. Is that okay with you? I remembered the excuse I used before, saying I was busy with overtime at the broadcasting station, which is why Jackson was dragged until now. Seeing Jackson's eager eyes, I nodded, my face unchanged, and Alice didn't pay any more attention. Then I will go to work with you later and come back together tonight. Mom and Dad said they want to celebrate Jackson's new job a little, Alice said. I suppressed a laugh inwardly, answering softly, okay. Whether they celebrated or were angry tonight, it would no longer concern me. At 8 a.m., I would board the train and leave the capital, heading to the National Defense University to start a new life. Alice looked at her watch, quickly asked a few questions, and then went into the room to wash up. I sat down to eat the noodles. Just then, Jackson's low, smug voice rang out. Tony, do you know? Today Alice and I are doing the IVF trial. She will soon be pregnant with my child. You see, Mom and Dad, your wife, everyone is on my side. When the child is born, Alice and I will be the parents. And you'll go from babysitter to a servant to take care of me and the child. There's no need for a marital relationship anymore, your future is only loneliness. If I were you, I wouldn't have the face to live anymore. Word by word, Jackson venomously recounted my previous life. I swallowed the last mouthful of noodles, wiped my mouth with a tissue, stood up, and looked at him. I won't be a babysitter for you, nor will I grow old alone. Because in this life, I no longer crave fake family affection. Nor do I view Alice as my only salvation. When I board the train and leave the capital, I will have a new life. This entire life, I will live for myself, no longer humbling myself for anyone. Jackson, thinking I was still being stubborn, laughed harder with satisfaction. Just wait and see. When Alice and I headed for the door, Father and Mother also stepped out. Alice gently explained, I will go to the broadcasting station with him. Mom and Dad still have to take Jackson for a checkup at the hospital. If you sit in the back with Mom and Dad, it will be a bit crowded. Jackson was already sitting in the passenger seat, laughing and saying, we're going to the maternity ward. I caught the boastful tone, lowered my eyes, and ignored it. Alice, thinking I was sad, explained further. Jackson will be happy to have a child and won't have a breakdown anymore. Can you understand, please? I took a deep breath, sat in the back seat, and closed my eyes to rest. The back seat was only enough for 2 people. Now 3 were sitting there. It was truly cramped. But Alice was dividing her heart between 2 people. So why should I sympathize? The jeep moved forward, driving through the morning streets. The sound of hawkers, busy workers. Jackson, indulged by his parents, ate another steamed bun, deliberately trying to annoy me, asking Alice, do you think we'll become a happy family? I laughed. Alice immediately looked through the rearview mirror. Tony, what are you laughing at? My face was smiling, but my eyes were full of sarcasm. Everyone is happy, I am happy too. Today, everything goes smoothly, everyone gets what they want. Mother didn't notice anything, and was even delighted. That's right, be obedient, don't cause trouble, and the family will be more harmonious. I nodded. Mother is right. Even though I was obedient, only Alice looked worried, wanting to say something, but Mother urged. Let's go, the consultation time is about to start. Alice quickly told me to take care of myself and left. I looked at her retreating figure in her neat military medical uniform, my hand next to me gradually relaxing its grip. Father and Mother were waiting not far away. Their eyes only focused on Jackson, not bothering to look at me once. As the jeep started again, I called out, Alice, Mom and Dad. They turned back. I said to them one by one, goodbye, we won't meet again from now on. I felt truly free. I was no longer an obstacle to their family's happiness. Mother heard my agreement, and then rushed them to leave, as if not wanting to delay even for a second. I watched the rear of the Jeep gradually disappear, the alley becoming empty, then returned to the broadcasting station dormitory. I took out the suitcase I had brought a few days earlier, checking it one last time. The train ticket, personal documents, and university acceptance letter were all there. At 7:50 a.m., the ticket was checked, and I stepped onto the train. Exactly at 8 o'clock, the train let out a long whistle, carrying my determination to leave the capital. Regarding my family, they were told by me that the embryo needed time to develop and could not be implanted into Alice's body yet, and that they should only return in 3 days. When leaving the hospital, Jackson suggested going home to rest a bit, and they would celebrate in the evening. They even wanted to invite the neighbors for a communal meal, celebrating that Jackson and Alice would have a child. Father and mother were busy taking care of Jackson. Alice seemed out of place, the morning had been too busy. And only now did she recall my attitude when we parted ways earlier today. I was usually gentle but stubborn. My face often worried. But this morning, I was smiling constantly, as if shedding some heavy burden. That made her uneasy. Jackson had to call her several times to pull Alice back to reality. "Should we go home first?" Alice said, looking at the sky. She forgot about me, forgot about my sensitivity and my desperate need for affection. I still paid attention to how she cared and looked after people. Seeing Jackson's stable condition, she should have been more attentive in caring for her husband. Jackson heard this, and his face immediately fell. "Tony hasn't finished his shift yet, can't you go home later?" Seeing Alice still hesitating, he advised, "Handing over the job in the afternoon is fine, Tony isn't ready yet." Father and mother also helped mediate. "Yes, Tony was very obedient today. We just need to pamper him a little tonight. Say a few nice words, what is there that Tony wouldn't understand?" Then they urged Alice to return home. Jackson was still ill, so his parents let him rest in his room. They and Alice went to buy meat and vegetables. At noon, the streets were empty. Father and mother asked a familiar old staff member to weigh 10 kilograms of meat. The vendor was still sleepy, slightly annoyed at being woken up, but brightened up when he saw father and mother. He quickly sliced the meat and said, "It's been a long time since your family came out to buy groceries, you haven't been here for half a month. Did you go to some cheap restaurants?" Father and mother were confused, unsure where I had been buying meat. Mother was annoyed. "That Tony, if there's no money, he gets lazy." The vendor also reminded them. "Half a month ago, Tony even bought a birthday cake. Your family truly loves your son. Buying such an expensive cake to celebrate his birthday." Mother was startled. Where did he get the money? He must have stolen money from the house to buy it. She was furious, scolding me almost hysterically, uttering cruel words regardless of the circumstances. Alice originally intended to stop her, but then thought that I shouldn't have had that much money. So she just worried. She recalled the past half month, sensing something was wrong. A small sales clerk unexpectedly interjected. "Are you talking about Tony from the broadcasting station? He sold his job to me." Of course, that's why he had the money to buy the $300 cake. Father, mother, and Alice were stunned. "What?" Father and mother said in unison, unable to believe it. "I took the university entrance exam and got accepted." "When was that?" Alice heard the words, "university entrance exam," linked to me, and her mind went blank, feeling as if she was about to lose the most important thing. She quickly grabbed the clerk's hand. "Do you know when he took the exam? Was his choice the agricultural major?" The clerk shook his head. "I don't know. Alice thought I was her husband, going home with me every day, and that our relationship was so good. Why would he ask me about this?" Alice was speechless. For the past half month, Jackson had been erratic, even threatening self-harm. So she and her parents had to stay by his side, not daring to leave for a moment. Everything related to me was ignored by them. Before, I would wait at home as usual, never showing dissatisfaction, so they thought I would still be the same. Waiting for them to return, caring for them, cooking for them, especially for father and mother. I had learned to cook bone broth, making it for them every week. But for the past half month, I hadn't done it anymore. Alice was stunned, while father and mother were irritated and angry. "Why didn't you tell us about such a big thing?" Mother scolded, and rushed home, wanting to find me to get a clear answer. Father and Alice quickly followed behind. But unexpectedly, Before they could reach the house door, as they passed the military zone, Alice was called back. Alice, regarding your divorce from Tony, I must make something clear to you. I've heard that lately you have an ambiguous relationship with your husband's younger cousin. This is undermining unit discipline. Alice's steps froze. Divorce? What divorce? I'm divorcing him? She was panicked, her expression serious. Don't talk nonsense. Tony is my husband. How can we divorce? The commanding officer looked at her in surprise, flipping through the file. Didn't you sign the divorce petition? The shock hit. Alice's mind went blank. Almost unable to believe it. In the commander's hand was a crumpled divorce application, which Alice had written to appease Jackson when he was ill, thinking she had hidden it well, but she was completely unaware. The commander continued sternly. Tony, when transferring his file, clearly stated he didn't want to return, showing he was deeply hurt. Despite that, he didn't say a single bad word about you. What have you been doing? You are temporarily suspended for 3 months. I will assign you a course in ideological education. After saying that, the commander angrily walked away. Alice stood rooted to the spot, her whole body cold, unable to utter a word. My mother, who had called Alice up, confusedly asked, why did Tony transfer his file? Why isn't he coming back to mother? Father was also stunned. Alice tried to regain her composure. It must just be an exaggeration. Tony wouldn't abandon us. Maybe he's just a little angry. They thought, he hasn't even started university yet. And he's gaining more power. We underestimated Tony too much. Going home and apologizing to him will fix it. Alice quickly ran home. Father and mother looked at each other, still feeling threatened by Tony but knowing they were wrong. So they decided to go home and cook Tony's favorite dish, like crab scrambled eggs. When they arrived at their house gate, they stopped, adjusting their faces to look apologetic. Alice was about to open the door, when she suddenly heard Jackson talking on the phone inside, his voice cold. I'm warning you about the matter of me pushing Tony and my mother into the water to save him, causing her death. Once I transfer the money, you won't get any more. No one can stop me. Tony has been lucky until now. When I fake depression and force him to die, I'll get the other half of the insurance money. I'll contact you then to transfer the money. Every word was like a clap of thunder, causing mother's eyes to widen. She pointed at Jackson, then looked at father and Alice, her mouth agape but unable to utter a sound. Alice was frozen. Memories of her own moments of depression and despair flashed through her mind. Her heart felt like it was burning, her body trembling. Jackson was still arrogant, warning the person on the other end of the line. If I collapse, you won't get a penny. Got it? After saying that, he hung up the phone. Jackson stepped out, intending to go downstairs to wait for Alice. But he saw the 3 people standing right at the door. He was startled, his face changing color. Ah, Alice, aunt, uncle. Why are you back so early? Remembering the recent phone call, Jackson tried to probe. Did you just get back? Mother was speechless, not saying anything. Alice's face was rigid, cold as a battlefield. Jackson tried to appear calm. Alice, what's wrong with you? Before he could finish, Mother pushed him. What did you just say? You said you pushed Tony into the water. And harmed whose mother? Jackson's face turned white. He realized that everything he had just said had been heard by the 3 people. He quickly tried to explain. No, I was just joking with an old friend, it was an act. Before he could finish, Alice cut him off. Are you still trying to force Tony to die? Jackson's expression now showed he felt threatened. He stammered. I can explain. But as he tried to retreat, Mother gripped his wrist tightly, her fingernails digging painfully into his flesh. Alice stood outside the door, her voice cold. Faking depression, harming Tony, harming us. One thing after another. Take your time and explain. The noise from their house attracted the whole neighborhood's attention. Before, Mother was always afraid Jackson would draw attention, not letting anyone get close. But this time, right at the front door, they made no effort to hide it. Jackson was overwhelmed by all the eyes, crying and feigning distress. Ah, auntie, uncle, it hurts, it hurts. Father, who used to be easily softened by a few tears, completely ignored him this time. He went inside the room to look for the money transfer envelope, and saw it belonged to Jackson, listing the address of a neighbor back home. Used to threaten silence. Mother broke down. Jackson, because you were depressed, as my only niece's son, I indulged your every whim. Yet you are the culprit who caused your mother's death. Viciously faking illness. And now you want to harm my son? What did our family do wrong to you? Jackson still denied it. Not me, I didn't. Seeing mother pull out a notebook, he immediately stopped and lunged for it. Don't look, it's not mine. But father pulled him hard, and Alice stepped forward, catching the notebook as it fell to the ground. Jackson was utterly panicked. Alice opened the notebook. It was Jackson's diary. Today Tony brought home a girl. Said she was his girlfriend. Alice is truly outstanding, she will be mine later. Tony even thought Alice would protect him. But I actually pretended to cut my wrist to be discovered. And Alice pitied me. I'm not allergic to pollen. But so what? Just doing anything that makes Tony suffer is enough. Who told Tony to share candy with me when we were little? He was so happy. It serves him right to have his parents stolen by me. Alice read line by line, the blood in her body seeming to freeze. Every word making her eyes grow colder. Reading to the very end, Alice's eyes were bloodshot. A surge of anger and coldness exploded. Suddenly, a slap landed straight on Jackson's face, making him cry out. Auntie. Trying to use the pretext of fake crying to win sympathy. But father pointed and signaled, holding him down. But he was pushed away by Jackson. Alice and mother quickly helped father up, intending to take him to the hospital. Father angrily yelled. First, take Jackson to the police station, we must report this. See how many things he has done to harm my son. Mother sobbed hysterically. Where is Tony now? Was he harmed by him? Bring my son back here. Before the crying subsided, an eyewitness neighbor said, Tony is fine. He already left on the train for university today. Alice turned to look, realizing that my luggage had been moved days ago. She felt numb, losing all strength, having to lean on the wall to keep from falling. Slowly creeping up to her and Tony's room. Opening the door, the room was empty, no one there. She silently called, Sergio, Tony. Her heart filled with both regret and sorrow. Father and mother were later taken to the hospital, still holding Alice's hand tightly. Father slapped himself, full of immense regret. Alice, we must find Tony and bring him back. I must apologize to my son. Mother also choked with sobs. I was wrong about my son. I will apologize to my son. Alice tried to calm her parents, then stepped out of the room. Outside, the police and the military political commissar were already waiting. The police officer stepped forward. Ms. Alice, regarding Jackson's case of harming a relative, we need you to provide evidence and details of the incident. Alice reminded them. My parents are too emotional right now. Please give them time to adjust. You can ask me first. The important thing right now was to contact relatives in my family's hometown. To find the old witnesses. She recounted Jackson's diary, word by word, then summarized the situation of the past few years, including being deceived by Jackson's fake illness, and his trickery to control matters of life and death. A feeling of guilt and regret overwhelmed her, realizing she had been manipulated by Jackson's feigned pity, making mistakes in her thoughts and actions. It was all his scheme to force Tony to die. Tony was right to be disappointed and want to leave. The police listened intently, promising to verify the evidence sequentially. Alice looked at the military political commissar, lowering her head. I apologize, I was wrong. The commissar sighed. This time it's truly a mess, affecting the entire unit. You will face disciplinary action. Alice did not argue, only quietly asking, Can I know which university Tony is studying at? No one answered, even father and mother didn't know. She only knew that Tony had said he didn't want to return, leaving the insurance and alimony, requesting secrecy. Alice collapsed onto the floor, a sense of loss flooding her. Although she was a soldier, one who usually didn't cry, now her eyes were red, tears streaming down, so heartbroken that it seemed her entire life was crying and begging all at once. Ultimately, Jackson was proven to be the perpetrator. The fact that he pushed his brother and mother into the water to harm them was confirmed, leading to his mother's death. Jackson was sent to prison. My mother wept profusely, pitying her sister, and grieving the loss of her son's happiness. Father gave up his engineering job, traveling everywhere to search for my whereabouts. Meanwhile, Alice remained in my family's house, guarding the small room that was ours, and traveling on assignments everywhere in the hope of meeting me again. This time, she only wanted to make amends for the other side. As I boarded the train, squeezing through the crowd to find my seat, I finally spotted my spot. But someone was already sitting there, a girl with short hair. I was about to ask. Just as I was about to call out, she stood up. "Is this your seat?" I was startled, nodded, and handed her the ticket. She smiled. "Then hurry up and sit here." She helped me put my luggage on the rack, then gave up the seat, putting the luggage that was as tall as her down under the table, and sat down. I was still staring at her blankly. She laughed. "Don't be scared, this seat is mine. I arrived earlier, and there were a few guys trying to take the spot. I won it back, and might as well help you so you don't have to argue." I finally understood, thanking her. "Thank you, you are so enthusiastic and kind." She just smiled. "I just like to argue." With her open and innocent attitude, I couldn't help but laugh. She continued talking, introducing herself. Her name was Ariana, and she was about to enter the National Defense Academy. I was surprised. I was also studying at the National Defense Academy. She excitedly said, "What a coincidence, are you going through the recruitment track or scientific research? You look like a scholar, so it must be research, right?" We chatted enthusiastically. Losing track of time, Ariana had just graduated from high school, 18 years old, while I, having lived 2 lifetimes, was nearly 23, viewing her like a child. On the way, from south to north, looking at the scenery as we traveled, I didn't feel tired at all. When we arrived, I asked, "Ariana, are you hungry?" She gave me 2 hot eggs she had just bought. I smiled, peeled them, and gave her some to eat. She pulled my arm. "Don't rush, you can stay at my place tonight." Finally, I agreed to a one-night sponsorship. The house was empty, the gate locked. We laughed and talked, put down our luggage, washed our faces, and cooked dinner. During the meal, Alice didn't dare to look up. I smiled. The next day was the start of the semester. She wanted me to stay at her house permanently, suggesting I could use my cooking skills to exchange for rent. But I refused. I didn't come to the National Defense Academy to be lazy, but because I wanted to use the knowledge I had gained to make up for what I had missed and contribute to the country. At school, I lived in the dormitory, starting to study diligently. The educational resources were abundant. I was almost always in the library or the professor's office, learning quickly and applying the knowledge. Thanks to my intelligence and the vision from my previous life, the elderly professors really liked me. Some even pulled me in to do experiments, introducing precious equipment one by one, patiently guiding me. One day, I was struggling with a difficult problem, searching for materials in the library late into the night. Ariana was also doing her homework, staying with me. I just finished, looking at the thick stack of notes, and smiled. "Done." She cheered. "You're so smart." My eyes were tired. I looked at her. "Thank you for staying with me." She blinked. "Tonight, I want to eat the dumplings you made last time." I had already prepared the ingredients, just waiting to cook. We packed up our things and went back to her house together. On the way, Alice whispered in my ear. I looked at the problem set the professor gave out, and it looked exactly the same as one my cousin had solved before. My cousin solved that problem set, and the next day she was accepted into Professor Messi's research group. At the time, I didn't think much of it, just assumed it might be a coincidence. The next day, I finished editing the problem set and submitted it to Professor Messi. And unexpectedly, I was called back. Despite his age, the professor was still mentally sharp, smiling and saying, "Tony, you're about to graduate. Are you interested in joining my research project?" I looked at the professor in surprise. At Military Zone 1, the commander looked sternly at the female soldier in uniform before him. "I am now assigning you a mission." Alice saluted, awaiting instructions. "Sir, there is a research project in the south that requires a new piece of medical equipment bought from overseas. Someone must personally escort it. No mistakes are allowed." She replied, "I guarantee the completion of the mission." Just as Alice accepted the assignment and was about to leave, the commander called her back. "Alice, it's been nearly 4 years. Do you still not intend to find someone new?" His words startled her. She had ideological issues before, But no one questioned her competence. The commander sighed. You can't wait for Tony to return after more than 10 years. To rekindle your relationship, can you? Alice spoke solemnly. Before was before, now I just want to be with the husband I lost for an entire lifetime. Even if Tony doesn't want me anymore, I want to keep his image in my memory. Her face softened. I also want to always be by Tony's side. After she left, the commander flipped through the file. Tony seems to be studying in Zone 1. If it weren't for the fact that there truly was no one else, I wouldn't have sent Alice there. A young man disappeared into the summer sun and wind. Alice had no idea that the person she always thought of was right there. She went home, greeted her parents, packed her bags, and left for the military camp. The escort mission was highly classified. She and her team followed the convoy to Military Zone 1. There were no incidents on the road. Only a few people asking questions as they passed through Zone 1. All of which she handled smoothly. Entering the city, the streets became more crowded. And she even heard children playing and women shopping. A group of young people's laughter rang out. Tony, remember to help us out later? Hearing the familiar name, Alice turned around. But only saw a girl far away, talking to someone in the shopping center. With no familiar figure in sight, she chuckled self-deprecatingly, withdrew her gaze, and continued toward the National Defense Academy. There, she met the person in charge of receiving the equipment, a young woman who was the key personnel of the research project. After checking the equipment, the woman nodded. Everything is fine, please bring them into the first-floor laboratory. Alice and a few teammates carefully moved the equipment into the center of the laboratory. After closing the door, everyone sighed in relief. She smiled, a rare occurrence. Thank you for your hard work, everyone. A teammate joked. It truly was hard work. Let's have an extra meal tonight. She nodded. Agreed, go report to the commander. As she was about to leave the institute, Alice saw Diana still standing outside. Her face serious, she was about to step forward to say something, when a voice rang out behind her. Diana, I apologize, I'm late. Alice froze, slowly turning her head toward the voice. Seeing a familiar face, a hoarse, sharp voice, made her heart constrict. Oh dear, I wasn't paying attention. I clearly remembered being scolded almost every day during the first week at the institute. And today was the day the new equipment arrived. I had to forego rest and rush to the institute. Seeing Diana made me breathe a sigh of relief. Diana was Professor Messi's favorite student. Outstanding in ability and gentle in nature. Thanks to her often speaking highly of me to the professor. Otherwise I would have been scolded much more. Meeting her, I immediately felt less stressed. Diana saw me arrive, clearly relieved. Don't worry, today isn't a workday. The teacher just called us in for a little bit. It's okay. I also casually said. No stress, I'm free today too. Just as I was about to greet her, I heard another familiar voice nearby. Alice, why are you here? I was startled. Before I could react, I saw Alice's face change color, rushing toward me and calling out. Tony. In that instant, I felt my body clearly. And the next thing was a loud crash. Turning my head, I was shocked. Ariana was speeding toward us on a bicycle, her brakes failing. Alice rushed over, holding the bicycle tightly with one hand. She stopped the bicycle in time. While I panicked, still wanted to step on the brakes but was too late. Alice held her breath, her heart pounding, only wanting to check if I was injured. Oh dear, are you okay? Before I could say anything, her hand touched empty air. I had quickly moved to support Diana, the professor's senior student. Did you break any bones? Let me help you inside first, there are medical personnel in the institute. Alice just stood there, her eyes intently watching me ignore her. Helping the other woman into the research institute. It took her a long time to regain her composure. Alice, are you still all right? A teammate who followed behind asked, slightly hesitant. I'm fine. She forced a smile. Tony is living well now, I'm happy. But the teammate looked at her pale face, seeing no sign of happiness. Inside the research institute, being a high-level project and security area, Alice could not enter and exit casually. The teammate regretted. If she had stayed inside a little longer, she wouldn't have to stand outside now. She looked at the strict gate, the empty hall inside, with no one in sight. Her eyes seemed to pierce through the wall. seeing me just turn the corner. She silently stood there, whispering, "You girls go back first. I want to wait for Tony to come out." The teammates knew her morale had been low over the years. No one interfered, only patting her shoulder and heading back to the dormitory. Alice waited from day until night fell, but I still didn't come out. Late at night, around midnight, the shift changed, but she was still standing there, her eyes unblinking, watching the gate. The staff checked her documents to let her rest, but she refused to leave, patiently waiting for her lost husband. As if punishing herself for the past, she remained motionless, patiently waiting. Finally, dawn arrived, and figures emerged from the research institute. Diana and I, on either side, were helping an elderly man out. All three of our faces were smiling, looking like a family of three. Alice's heart trembled, she almost rushed forward. Her lips trembling, wanting to say something but unable to speak, only whispering, "Tony." Diana and I, both pressing and helping Professor Messi out of the institute. Despite the old man's scolding, "It's been all night, you still have to teach tonight, rest a bit. Eat something, and get some sleep. You skipped eating and sleeping all night just for this new equipment." The professor grumbled, "Why are you managing us? We're just students, show some respect." The security guard next to us smiled and opened the car door for the professor. Diana and I, with unspoken understanding, helped the professor into the car. Diana even tucked a white bun into his hand. The professor angrily took a bite, still commanding, "You're teaching the application class tonight, both of you must be there. No being late." We nodded, promised to definitely be there, sighed in relief, and smiled at each other. It was only then that I noticed Alice standing not far away. Her eyes fixed on me. When my eyes fell on her, she was flustered, wanting to speak, wanting to apologize to me about Jackson. The whole family felt guilty, knowing they had treated me poorly for so long. She remembered when she first met me. I was still strong, optimistic despite the harshness of my family. I even bought flowers for her myself, asserting that I could build a family. A person who truly loved me. Recalling the past, Alice felt heartbroken and cold. She had promised to always be by my side. Never to leave. Never to let me feel pain again. "Tony, listen to me. I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have." She wanted to speak, but I turned my face to Diana, smiling. "Diana, Ariana and I have arranged to buy rice today. Could you show me the way to Ariana's house?" Diana nodded. I even called Ariana beforehand so she could help us carry things. We walked off in a different direction, inadvertently blocking Alice's view. She stood there, watching us, helpless. From a distance, a voice rang out. "Did you know that female soldier just now?" "I don't know," I replied, not even wanting to talk about her. Alice didn't know how she got back to the dormitory. The teammates were finished packing and asked her if she was going back to the capital. She stood silently for 3 seconds, then nodded. She would show me her steadfastness and determination. As long as I agreed, she would be by my side for life. Never leaving. Never letting me suffer again. Knowing I was happy here, she was relieved. Only worrying that I might suffer hardship. And thinking that hurt her 1,000 times more. Even if she hated her family, she only wanted me to be at peace. She decided to leave with her teammates that very day. On the way, I proactively asked Diana to drive me back to avoid Alice. We were silent the whole way. And only when getting out of the car did I awkwardly say, "Thank you, Diana." Diana blushed, unable to suppress a smile. "It was nothing." 13. I am Ariana's cousin, and I live right next door to Ariana. "It's on the way." I nodded. The two of us walked silently to Ariana's front door. Ariana graduated from university and passed the exam to work at the local propaganda agency. Swinging her PS5 out to greet me, to encourage me to cook. Ariana skillfully prepared the ingredients in advance, even bringing out an apron and a headscarf, only asking me to handle the cooking. And she would take care of all the subsequent steps. I was used to this method. If I were just a little polite, Ariana would look at me with pitiful eyes and say with a firm voice, "Someone like Tony, so capable and handsome, who wouldn't want to help you?" My mouth is softer now from eating, so I certainly can't be lazy. If I eat for one day, I lose 1 day of work. The girl you marry later definitely won't bear to let you work so hard. I could only smile helplessly. I had never heard this kind of reasoning before. At home, I was the one who took care of the whole family, and no one cared what I did. Ariana was completely different. I was irresistibly tempted, and had no choice but to agree to let her handle all the steps after cooking. When I received less praise, I felt embarrassed. But Ariana didn't change at all, still carefree. Today, she was a bit more reserved, quietly asking, "What do you think of my cousin, Diana?" I didn't understand her meaning. "Do you mean her personality?" "Very good, all the professors at the institute like her." Ariana pursed her lips. "I'm not asking about that. I'm asking what you think of her. Is she suitable to be your girlfriend?" I was startled. I hadn't expected Ariana to ask so directly. And loudly too. I was embarrassed. "Don't talk nonsense. Diana is only being attentive to me because I'm new to the research institute. Don't think too much." Ariana looked at me for a long time and then exclaimed, "You're really slow on the uptake, Tony. My cousin has never been friendly to newcomers at the institute. She's been there for 8 years, she doesn't care about anyone new. This time, she just wants to pursue you." Ariana's voice was so loud that Diana, who was arranging documents for Professor Messi, turned her eyes toward us. The woman with a gentle expression stood up, looking at us with concern. Her usually cool expression furrowed slightly, as if she was paying attention to the movement in the kitchen. When I looked back, Diana gave me a soft, caring look. She and I looked at each other for a moment, and her ears began to flush red. Thanks to Ariana's comment, I just kept my head down and ate the whole time, not knowing if Diana had heard. In the evening, I had to go listen to Professor Messi's lecture. I intended to go back to the dormitory to rest, but Ariana held me back. So I went with her to wander around the state-run supermarket for a while. Near evening, Diana arrived on time to wait for me. Ignoring Ariana's gaze, getting into the car and unconsciously adjusting her collar. I didn't know what to say, only having the feeling that Diana was constantly looking at me, as if she really liked me. I pinched my arm, telling myself to snap out of it. To divert my attention, I took out a calculator and asked Diana some questions. When we arrived at our stop and got out of the car, I finally broke free from my state of apprehension, calling out naturally, "Diana, should we look for the professor first or go to class first?" Diana said to go to class first, as the professor was angry. I nodded, saying goodbye automatically. Unexpectedly, as soon as I turned around, I was called, "Tony." Diana looked at me, stopping. She had unconsciously blurted out my name, and now she could only pretend to be normal. "About the military woman this morning. If you need any help, just look for me or Professor Messi." I looked up, meeting Diana's eyes, and suddenly smiled. "This morning you asked if I knew that person." "I do. Her name is Alice, and she is my ex-wife." Diana immediately replied, "It must be because she wasn't good that you divorced her, right?" Hearing the obvious bias in her statement, I just smiled. Since leaving my family and leaving Alice, everyone around me seemed to always favor me. When I got divorced, if fellow students gossiped, Ariana would block them in the hallway and scold them, making me unable to lift my head. Professor Messi would intentionally call on me to speak in class and praise me. Now Diana, who didn't know the whole situation yet, started protecting me. I had never experienced this feeling. My parents were very fair and highly moral, never showing favoritism. Alice was a highly respected head nurse, so she certainly couldn't show favoritism. I only just realized that being favored by innocent people is also a very happy feeling. I admitted that maybe I had done something wrong. I recounted the story of Jackson, but didn't dwell on it, even joking. Perhaps I was too narrow-minded. It's clear that Jackson had depression, but he still wanted to do something ungrateful. As soon as the words left my mouth, Diana immediately grabbed my hand. "No, Tony, you are not that kind of person." I looked up at her. Diana, thinking I was still doubting myself, hurriedly explained that depression is an illness requiring scientific treatment, and not something for someone who doesn't understand medicine or pharmacology like me to use to hurt myself. I smiled, nodding while Diana intensely explained, "You are right." After a round of scolding, teaching, Diana and her teammates helped me feel relieved. Professor Messi also scolded me less these days, even inviting me to his home for dinner. "Don't worry about those trivial people, you are excellent. Studying well. The future of research depends on you. Professor Messi spoke gently. The professor's wife, who worked at the propaganda agency, spoke more directly, telling me that since he was my teacher, I shouldn't belittle myself. I stood up helplessly. Yes, I'm not being stubborn. But you haven't accepted me as your student yet. Professor Messi glared and asked, if I don't accept you as my student, who will? I was banned from the lab. I quickly bowed and apologized, cleverly offering tea, satisfying the teacher. I was wrong, teacher, I was wrong. When I left the professor's house, under the sunset, my head still felt hot, and I was drenched in sweat. The elderly still got angry fiercely. I almost begged the professor's wife for help. Ariana said, you go back first. And Diana stepped forward. She said she was bringing documents to the professor and helping Ariana at the same time. The documents were taken in, the professor's scolding rang out. And then Diana calmly walked out, smiling at me. Let's go home. I looked at the door, knowing the teacher was no longer angry about the documents. Trusting Diana's words, I just silently glanced at her. 14. Diana did not look directly at me, only asking with slight embarrassment. You look like you're constantly smiling. Did the professor accept you as his student? I raised my hand to touch the corner of my mouth, realizing the smile was still on my face. It turned out I had kept that smile on, even though dealing with Professor Messi had been quite tiring. The summer in the north is incredibly hot. In the alley, someone was pushing a cart selling popsicles. Children swarmed around, chirping as they looked at the icy popsicles. Even though I didn't get close, I felt a coolness in my heart. Exactly like my current state of mind, stressed, struggling, but my whole body felt cool. I could smile if I wanted to, and play with Professor Messi if I wanted to. The suppressed feelings and suffering from my rebirth seemed to have all vanished. I stopped walking and looked at Diana. Is something wrong? She also stopped, looking directly into my eyes. Her face immediately flushed, and then she shook her head. It's nothing. In my heart, I silently thought, thank you everyone. In that moment, I felt that passing the entrance exam to the National Defense Academy was the best decision I had ever made. The days of research passed very quickly. When I officially entered the institute, I was assigned to Professor Messi's project team. I still vividly remember everything from the afterlife, feeling the country's changes, and understanding many old techniques at the same time. Despite my limited knowledge, I quickly began experiments and found verifiable points. From beginning to end, the process of deduction gave me a much higher starting point than many others. I was engrossed in research, time flew by. One day, I organized my materials and ideas, proposing a solution that made Professor Messi applaud with praise. He was busy, so he called Diana to lead the trial team. It was only then that I realized the second in command of the Research Institute was none other than Diana, my guide. Surprisingly, Diana was also a genius. Based only on my preliminary calculations and ideas, she calculated results that were almost identical to the future world. When the initial experimental project succeeded, I was still dazed. Tony, what's wrong? Are you tired? She worriedly tried to help me to the medical room, her face pale. I snapped out of it, gripping Diana's hand tightly. We did it. From proving the feasibility of this material, the military will advance another step. Even earlier, the pencil could have been produced. I was excited and proud, because I was lucky to contribute to the project, to enter the Research Institute, and to work hard with everyone. The emotion lasted too long. By the time I came to, I was surrounded by researchers. Diana still hadn't let go of my hand, looking at me gently, with a small smile. She blushed, quickly releasing my hand. Everyone started cheering. Don't be shy, it's normal to be emotional when a project succeeds. Team leader Diana didn't object to you holding her hand. Holding it for a long time is fine too. Exactly, hold it for as long as you want. I pretended to be calm, gathered my documents, and went to find the professor. When I left the lab, the atmosphere was even more festive. My colleagues teased me. There's your wife, introduce her to everyone in the lab. You've only been here for less than half a year, and you're already so good at picking up girls. I just lowered my head and walked faster. Just as I was about to walk far away, I suddenly felt my foot hit a wet patch, and my shoe slipped. I thought I was going to fall. But a soft hand suddenly reached out and held me tight. Looking up, a familiar face appeared. It was Alice. After so many days apart, she was thin, her cheekbones showing, her aura still cold. I steadied myself, immediately pushing her hand away. Thank you. Seeing me thank her and turn to leave, Alice unconsciously grabbed my wrist, her voice hoarse and shaky. Tony, I have something to tell you, can you please listen to me completely? I really didn't want to listen. After leaving home, everything I had left behind. The nightmares that used to bother me never appeared again. I am living very well now. But Alice said, your parents are recuperating from their illness and always asking about you. I stopped. My parents were still my parents, they raised me. I couldn't turn my back on them when they were sick. Whether by sending money or hiring a caregiver, I could stay away, but I couldn't abandon them. If they caused trouble, my peaceful life would be ruined. Moreover, there was still Jackson. But Alice's next sentence stunned me. Jackson went to prison for personally harming his mother. We all know the truth, we were wrong about you. Alice looked at me, extremely worried. To get into the research institute, she almost did everything. Taking on dangerous missions, requesting transfers, begging for help everywhere. Giving up her position in the military, which angered her superiors. People in the military who once disliked her also took the opportunity to harm her. She knew she was destroying her own future. But in front of me, the person who was the same as the day we first met. Elegant, handsome. She asked shakily, Tony, I didn't have a child with Jackson, can you forgive me? I was cold, only concerned with my parents' health. If Alice wanted to dwell on right and wrong, I would turn around and leave immediately. I could not forgive what my family and she had done in the previous life. After being reborn, staying away was my choice. But it didn't mean I acted as if it never happened. Nor did I want to turn back with a cold face. Alice's face darkened, her body exhausted after days without rest. Trying to hold herself up, recounting the day I left. I then learned that since I left, Jackson was exposed, and my parents searched for me everywhere. My father, believing the words of an evil person, went into the southwest mountains to look for me, accidentally breaking his arm. My mother cried until she was half blind. Compared to them, Alice was the best off. Although she was caught for her misconduct 4 years ago and demoted 3 ranks. Her ability was still outstanding, and she continued to serve in the military medical corps. Seeing my surprise, she gave a bitter laugh. Tony, I'm not telling you these things to make you feel guilty. Nor to blame you. We both know this is not your fault. 15. But Tony, I hope you can give us a chance to make amends. The past has not treated you well. Now, we only want to make it up to you regarding relationships and reputation. I don't care about merit or fame anymore. I just want to be by your side. Use myself to protect you. And fulfill the promises I couldn't keep. I was surprised by the huge changes at home after I left. It turned out that after I left, it wasn't Jackson who finally got family happiness. But rather his scheme was exposed, and he was sent to prison. I listened to Alice pleading, only saying, from today on, I will send double the money to my parents. The research position today is very high, but I don't need to use it. I can send it all to my parents. In Alice's brightening eyes, I continued. But what has happened, I cannot forgive. And don't look for me to make amends. I am living very well. Alice thought I would soften like before. But my face was cold, I said directly. In you, I hope not to see you again. After speaking, I turned and walked away. Behind me, Alice seemed to collapse. Standing still, watching my shadow disappear, tears streaming down. The pain in her heart spreading throughout her body. She tightly clutched her chest, her fingernails scratching her flesh. Tony really abandoned her. Not out of hatred. Not out of anger. But an absolute coldness. Like discarding a piece of dirty cloth. Without a trace of attachment. Alice truly lost me. That evening, when I returned to my accommodation, Diana followed me back. The two of us silently discussed the next experiment. When we got to the crucial part, my face turned pale. It turned out I was missing a page of documents, which I had stored in a locked drawer. Diana was slightly surprised. Don't rush, wait a moment. I said I would go back and get it. And rushed back toward the research institute gate. I ran for a while. Then, I heard gunfire. My face turned pale. In 1990, the situation both domestically and internationally was unstable. Even though the research institute had strict control, it was still difficult to prevent spies from infiltrating. This time, the experimental data generated by Diana and me could enable the country to produce weapons decades earlier. Something foreign powers did not want to see. The infiltrating spy was preparing to destroy the data and intended to eliminate us. But Diana unexpectedly returned to the lab, leaving no time for action. The opponent coldly pulled out a gun and fired. I was panicked, surrounded by security guards. Hearing a moment of silence followed by an explosion, almost falling, security quickly escorted me to safety. About half an hour later, the chaos in the room subsided temporarily. Diana was escorted out, safe and sound, with no signs of anything abnormal. I sighed in relief, hurriedly asking, "What happened? Was anyone injured?" Diana looked at me and nodded. "Someone was attacked. But the injured person is Alice. She saved you." I was stunned. In the urgent situation, Alice was treated by the institute's medical staff, then taken to the largest hospital in the city. The white light was dazzling. The research institute intended to keep her for care. Diana volunteered. She wanted to bring me to thank my benefactor. The two of us stood with a guard outside the operating room. I was silent. Diana comforted me. "It's okay, I checked Alice's injury. She wasn't hit in a vital spot. And the bleeding was stopped in time, she will recover quickly." When the green light turned on, Alice was pushed out, wearing an oxygen mask, her eyes tightly closed. Although her face was pale, her chest was still rising and falling. Her life was not in danger. The nurse removed the mask, saying the patient had other pre-existing injuries and needed careful care to prevent complications. Diana nodded. The project was not yet complete, so we couldn't stay along. After confirming Alice's condition, we left. Afterward, Diana and I were accommodated in the small compound of the institute. The entire institute conducted a major inspection, and the experiment continued. When the professor learned about the attack, he became even more determined, directly pushing the pace of the experiment. I still worked regularly, and began cooking frequently. As the person who was saved, Diana asked the care staff to monitor Alice's health. Every time she brought food, I would send an extra bowl of nutritious soup. After about half a month, the researchers were gradually allowed to return, and the experiment slowly succeeded. One day, I received news that Alice had woken up and wanted to see me. I didn't go alone, but invited Diana to come with me. Diana had been frowning lately. Her gaze had shifted from gentle to sad. Walking beside her in the hospital hallway, I suddenly asked, "Diana, do you like me?" She blushed, but didn't dare to shake her head, reluctantly nodding. I teased, "You're very discreet, I almost didn't realize it." As soon as I finished speaking, Diana stopped, turned to me, her face serious. "I am formally confessing to you now, Tony. I want to become your like-minded comrade and partner. Do you accept?" Before I could react, a voice rang out behind us. "Tony, are you outside?" Alice woke up, bandaged all over, in the final moments before losing consciousness. She had only prayed I wasn't at the research institute. Alice wasn't sure if there was only one spy, but she didn't want me to be in danger. When she woke up, she immediately asked the person next to her about my safety. Knowing I was safe and quickly returned to work. She sighed in relief. "It's okay, as long as you're safe. I am content." Alice drank the nutritious soup the nurse gave her, and suddenly wanted to see me. The nurse relayed the message, and she waited anxiously. She thought I wouldn't come after my harsh words. But surprisingly, I was willing to meet. Alice brightened up, trying to sit up straight in bed. Her eyes glued to the room door, nervously waiting for me. When my figure appeared, she immediately asked, worriedly, "Tony, were you injured?" When I denied it, she felt less worried. Alice looked at me for a long time, as if not wanting to look away, blinking with regret. The near-death experience made her clearly understand her heart. No matter what happened, she only wanted to be by my side and love me. After a moment of silence, Alice asked, "Tony, did I protect you?" Outside, as Diana was talking to me. 16. In fact, she had heard everything. Alice knew she had no right to question me now, but still couldn't hold back, her voice urgent. "Tony, I protected you, I can protect you. Ever since we met, I've always been by your side. I looked at Alice, not denying it. You truly protected me. You protected the research institute. And the crucial experimental data. Receiving the confirmation, Alice's face brightened somewhat. She said, Tony, please let me always be by your side. You cannot abandon my protection. And I will also consider you my lifelong mission. The past was my fault. But I promise never to repeat it. I'm willing to die in front of you if necessary. Tony, do you want to start over with me? In her eyes, full of hope and humility. I sat down, my voice calm. Instead of answering you, I will tell a story. Memories of the previous life flashed through my mind. But now, I was no longer in extreme pain. Leaving was the best medicine. I began to tell the story. There once was a man with a happy family, who had everything taken away by an outsider. He thought it was because he didn't try hard enough, fighting back fiercely his whole life. But only watched his wife and parents treat the outsider like a treasure. The outsider had a child with his wife, and he had to raise it. He cared for his parents until their death. Moved his residence elsewhere, giving everything to the outsider. Finally, his wife passed away first, saying before she died that she regretted not being able to marry the outsider. Alice's face turned pale, she held her breath. I concluded. Then he was reborn, deciding to abandon everything he couldn't have. And give up both the binding family affection and love. To finally find the warmth that had been long lost. No, it can't be like that. Alice was ashen, stammering to justify herself. That's a fantasy, it can't happen. We know Jackson's true nature. You want to say this is just a story? A hypothetical situation, that never happened. But my face was cold as before, I didn't emphasize that the story was fictional. As soon as she looked into my eyes, Alice suddenly realized that everything seemed real. She didn't want to believe it, ignoring her physical pain, trying to stand up and walk toward me. That's not true, Tony. A thud rang out. Alice fell to the ground, pain racking her whole body. But her eyes still stared lifelessly at me. She practically crawled toward me, while I stood up with no intention of helping, turning to call the nurse. Tony. Alice desperately gripped my ankle, pleading. Don't go, it's just a story. I didn't let Jackson have a child with me. I never even wanted to marry him, truthfully. Tony, please don't go, okay? I shook her hand off, looking down at Alice, my gaze distant, lowering my head, and shaking it, moving away from the previous pain. This was the most correct thing I had ever done. From the moment of rebirth, I had decided to leave. Now, I certainly wouldn't turn back. What happened in the previous life, and the current Alice, I didn't believe either. And I certainly didn't want to return to those days of maneuvering around my family. Begging for pity. Alice's hand fell on the empty space, still reaching out desperately, wanting to grab onto something, finally collapsing onto the floor, letting out a sigh of despair. She didn't understand why. I was so determined to leave because of a story that never happened. No matter how much she begged, I wasn't moved. The wounds on her body throbbed with pain. But Alice didn't know which pain came from her heart and which came from her body. She closed her eyes, watching me from afar, sinking into a daze. In her dream, her consciousness revived, and an image appeared before her eyes. She returned to Jackson's room, seeing him sitting on the dirt bed, holding a child with an unclear face, smiling and asking, Alice, isn't our child adorable? Alice was horrified, shaking her head, but helplessly watching herself smile and lean her head against Jackson. Of course, our child is adorable. Right at that moment, my shadow appeared outside the window. Wearing that coat, my face pale, almost collapsing, asking, why did you let Jackson have a child? Alice wanted to refute, to explain, but only saw herself arguing with Tony. From that day on, my eyes no longer held any vitality. My whole life passed in pain. The children were unruly, uneducated, and in the end, Jackson's child ended up in prison, tarnishing the entire career. Alice watched her whole life, unable to distinguish between reality and dream, wanting to wake up but unable to. She collapsed on the floor. I called the on-duty nurse. Alice's wounds were re-bandaged. Her heart rate was normal, and I prepared to leave. Just as I turned my back, I heard the nurse exclaim, the patient. I did not turn back. As a soldier who saved a research staff member, Alice would receive special care. I didn't need to worry. In the future, we would not meet again. When the two of us left the hospital, the bright sun shone on our faces. I heard a street vendor calling out for hot sweet potatoes, the aroma diffused. I took a deep breath, feeling that everything was beautiful. Diana walked beside me, holding back the whole way, finally asking, "Tony, 17. Are you all right?" I turned around, squinting as I smiled. "I am very well." Diana was silent for a moment, then cautiously asked, "Then, the story you told in the hospital room, was it true?" I raised my eyes, looking at her worried gaze. I hadn't expected Diana to have heard that story. I wanted to clearly draw a line with Alice, so she wouldn't continue to cling to me. Which was why I directly implied that I had been reborn. But now, I just paused for a moment and said, "That's a story I once heard someone else tell, it might just be a rumor." "Don't believe it." Diana's eyes grew even more pained. She didn't know if what I said was true, but she hoped it wasn't. She had never been involved in my past. Only knew that when she first met me, I was always reserved, seemingly unfamiliar with anyone's kindness. Initially, she thought I was an introverted person. Now she knew that I had been neglected by my entire family. Diana realized this, her heart filled with sorrow and anger. If my family and my ex-wife didn't cherish me, then she wouldn't hesitate to take me in. Diana thought about her parents, who after meeting me, repeatedly mentioned in front of her that I was a good child. She stopped walking, looking at me seriously. "Tony, my confession to you earlier was entirely sincere." Her eyes looked at me intently. Careful, like tending to a treasure. The words had been repeated in her mind hundreds of times. And only then did she slowly introduce herself, word by word, and then asked, "Tony, you are diligent, resilient, clear-headed and rational when facing problems, and never impulsive. I hope we can overcome all of life's challenges together. I will treat you as I treat the research career I pursue for a lifetime. Faithful. Unchanging. Will you marry me?" The small street was deserted. Only the clack-clack of a bicycle wheel, carried by the wind, both quiet and distant. The sunlight shining through the low wall was scorching. But I felt cool. My past was shielded by Diana. She always quietly did things like this, taking care of me discreetly, skillfully, and gently. At this moment, from Diana's eyes, I saw worry, determination, and unwavering resolve. I was slightly distracted. The entire research institute knew Diana was addicted to research. Researchers often forgot to eat and sleep when focused. And she was strict, almost a perfectionist, meticulous from washing, sterilizing, to even the way she breathed softly in the laboratory. Thanks to her solid knowledge and serious attitude, she gradually became Professor Messi's assistant. Everyone knew she put her life's ideals into research, striving for it her entire life. Now, Diana said she would treat me as she treats her lifelong research, considering me her ideal and passion. That was her own kind of romance. I smiled, while she watched nervously, holding her breath, then slowly nodded. "I do." Birds on the trees chirped. Looking at Diana's bright eyes, I suddenly remembered the first time I met her, when Professor Messi brought me into the institute and handed me over to Diana. She was cold-faced then, carrying an aloof aura, making others feel distant. But when she looked at me, Diana smiled. Though she tried very hard and it was clumsy, her eyes shone brightly like a spring breeze. Half a month later, the experiment progressed successfully. Professor Messi held the new material report, happily announcing, thanks to you, a huge contribution to the manufacturing project." The elderly professors in the institute teared up, because the international situation had been unstable for the past few years. Although there was no war, we were often threatened at sea. Now, finally, there was a breakthrough. I smiled, helping Professor Messi. "You are the person in charge of the project, why thank me?" The professor laughed heartily. "True, the achievement belongs to everyone. But Tony, you and Diana are the biggest contributors. Now you can start thinking about what reward you want. When the superiors bring the medals down, don't miss the chance to make a request." Diana glanced at me, seriously asking, "Can we ask for anything?" The professor was surprised. "Of course, what do you want?" Diana stepped forward, gently taking the professor's hand. "I want to get married." The entire room fell silent, All eyes turned to me. Someone asked, "Do you have a boyfriend? Who is it?" Before Diana could answer, I smiled, replying, "I also want to get married now." We looked at each other. She smiled first, holding my hand. "On our wedding day, we will hand out celebratory candies to everyone." In just a moment, cheers echoed throughout the corridor. The news of our wedding spread across the institute, and everyone congratulated us. It was the first time I had seen Diana so joyful. She chatted for half a day with anyone who spoke to her, just to hear wishes for our lasting happiness. I laughed and shook my head, pulling her out of the institute. "Aunt and uncle are waiting at home. Why aren't we rushing back?" I was both anxious and looking forward to it. I had only met her parents once. The impression was that they were gentle, but I didn't know if they would be satisfied with me. Diana broke free from the congratulatory circle, holding my hand to comfort me. "Don't be nervous. My parents don't know how to cook. Even if we get back early, we might not get to eat, so there's no need to rush." 18. On the contrary, her parents wanted to hold the wedding a little later. I was a bit surprised to hear that. "But I can cook." Before the sentence was finished, Diana stopped me. The girl smiled, her eyes and smile filled with disapproval. "Cooking is the love my parents have for you. It's already arranged at the Research Institute. You don't need to lift a finger for 3 meals a day. If you choose to do it yourself, my parents will be unhappy. And they'll blame me for being no different than a burden to you." Seeing Diana so serious, I had no choice but to nod. The two of us continued to walk slowly home, hand in hand. Along the way, Diana boasted to everyone she met, "I'm getting married soon." She even took a detour, buying milk candies at the bus station, handing them out to people she met, and then shyly listening to compliments about our handsome groom and beautiful bride pairing. Watching the two of us walk slower and slower, under the suppressed laughter of the security guards, I just sighed. Never mind, it's rare for her to be so happy, let her be. When Ariana learned that I was getting married, she rushed over to me. "Here you are, Tony, from now on, you're my brother-in-law." I replied casually, without any embarrassment. Ariana saw my directness and stopped teasing, then said, "Brother-in-law, don't you have family? Why not hold the wedding at our house?" Ariana knew more or less about my family situation, so she didn't dare to mention my parents, knowing that they wouldn't be good parents. She enthusiastically invited me to hold the wedding at her house. I shook my head. Professor Messi said he would adopt me. I still felt like I was dreaming. I never thought the professor would make this request. Although the professor and his wife had poor health and no children, they each had countless students, and had never adopted a student. Was I really that lucky? The professor's wife helped me take my measurements for my wedding attire. The professor sat nearby reading the newspaper, hearing my self-doubt, and through the newspaper, lightly hitting my head. "What are you doubting? You are intelligent and outstanding. You are the kind of child we want to have. Most of our students are male, and the female ones are all living well. Only you need attention. Seeing that your family is unreliable, we discussed adopting you. If that Diana bullies you later, I will stand up for you." The professor glanced at Diana standing at the door, giving a snort. Diana was mentioned by the teacher, revealing a smile. The teacher was very happy that I was being protected by everyone. I was getting married. Alice was the last to know. After a period of careful treatment and recuperation, she could finally move around using a wheelchair. Given her current condition, she was no longer suitable for dangerous frontline work, so the organization decided to arrange a transfer for her. But Alice refused. Her teammates advised her that the transfer job would be easier, and with her cultural background and ability to attack, she could still be promoted later. Why not go? Alice still shook her head, stubbornly. Her teammates couldn't persuade her and blurted out, "Are you still thinking about Tony? He's getting married soon. If you still remember him, it's an ideological mistake." Alice trembled, looking up in disbelief. "Tony is getting married? No way." She instinctively wanted to deny it, but only saw her teammates' disapproving gazes. She finally realized that her teammates weren't lying to her. I was about to marry another woman. "Alice, don't go crazy." Her teammates saw her in pain, suffering so much that she seemed unable to feel the pain, raising her hand to her chest, drawing blood. Outside the door, the nurse knocked. "You have a phone call." In the hospital room, Alice stopped panicking. It was a call from her parents-in-law. Mother said, "Alice, Tony sent us money. Did he know we were sick? Tony cares about us, right?" In front of her mother-in-law, Alice remained calm, recalling the last time she met me, when I said I would arrange for someone to take care of my parents. After a moment of silence, she replied, "That's right." Mother immediately asked, "When is Tony coming back? I want to see my son." Alice was silent. Mother cried loudly, "Alice, I want to see my son." Father also spoke briefly. The sound of crying echoed through the receiver. Alice closed her eyes, seeing my resistance, not telling my parents about my current difficulties, but thinking about me getting married. She couldn't stay calm. When my parents' crying subsided, Alice finally put down the phone. At this moment, wedding music rang out from somewhere. My wedding was scheduled for mid-September. The autumn sky was clear, the weather was cool but not cold. Ariana helped me adjust my wedding suit, fixing my clothes, and giving me an expensive watch, saying, "This is the future father-in-law, my uncle's watch that he prepared for you. I heard this is the watch he wore on his wedding day. And he was happy with my aunt for life. All happiness relies on effort. You can't take it off and return it. My father-in-law said so, so I couldn't do otherwise. On a wedding day, who doesn't want a happy family?" In the past, when I was with Alice, I never paid attention to this. My parents also didn't help at all. Not understanding anything, just agreeing with whatever they were told. When we finished arranging everything and arrived at the bride's house, Diana was already standing at the door. She was so happy that she almost wore her wedding attire, running all over the city, handing out celebratory candies, causing a group of children to follow her, cheering, "Congratulations, congratulations." The gentle sunlight shone down on the old streets. Tree shadows swayed in the wind, and the air was fresh. People hung lanterns and decorated with flowers, from the moment we got out of the car until we entered the door. Every relative offered a blessing, wishing us a happy marriage. I looked at every face, familiar or unfamiliar, hearing nothing but joyous, lively, and warm congratulations. I froze, my eyes turning red, tightening my grip on Diana's hand. Diana turned back, worriedly asking, "Oh my, what's wrong?" I whispered, "Thank you." I felt her heartfelt intention. No matter how magnificent a wedding is, in my heart, it's not worth a single blessing from family. This time, I truly believed that I had secured happiness. The cheerful congratulations echoed far and wide. So much so that Alice, though not nearby, could still hear them. When she reached the door, she just managed to see me smiling brightly there. Despite her chaotic life, Alice could precisely hear my laughter. I had never laughed so loudly, wanting to shout to the whole world that I was happy. Alice remembered when I married her. I also wore that smile, as if handing over the rest of my life to her. Back then, I secretly promised to take care of her for life. But she betrayed me. Alice's eyes were bloodshot, staring intently at the newlyweds from afar, turning into a statue. The wedding party was so boisterous that it seemed capable of shattering the low wall. The words, "100 years of good union," ringing in her ears. The sky gradually darkened from day, nearing sunset. And then the moon rose high, the night slowly passing until dawn. It wasn't until the neighbor's rooster crowed loudly that Alice seemed to wake up. She moved her stiff body, realizing she had witnessed my wedding. "Can we go now?" Her teammate, who had arranged for her to leave today, finally urged. The teammate pushed the wheelchair, wanting to take her away from the gathering place of women, because she had gone crazy once. The teammate was careful, afraid she would relapse. But Alice didn't react, perhaps tired both mentally and physically. Her eyes saw nothing, she sank into sleep. In her dream, Alice saw 18-year-old me, wearing the wedding shirt, laughing and running to hug her. Alice instinctively reached out to hug me back, but I avoided her. And then she watched me hug another woman, incredibly happy. Alice's dream body twitched, whispering almost desperately, "Tony, no." Her greatest fear was losing me, but now she had. Tears mixed with blood flowed down the corner of her mouth, smudged and cloudy. But no one cared. The sun rose, it was another new day.